Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This is Comics Today, a show that we do on Wednesday to celebrate New Comic Book Day, clearly the best day of the week. And I want to welcome you guys to the show. Over the course of this show, what we will endeavor to do is to talk about some news and current events. And we typically have a guest or two join me to help me make sense of some of what we see happening in the comic book community. And this show will be just like every other show in that we will have a special guest on here to kind of help me to sort through a couple of things. And over the course of this show, we are going to talk about GarageCon. At a very high level, we're going to talk about GarageCon 2020, which is the second time that I've actually hosted this event. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a surprising move from DC. And then we will finish things up by talking about not another Dan Slott controversy. We're actually going to talk about some positive things that have come out of the Dan Slott stuff that is actually happening out there right now. So I want to say hello to some comic book soldiers that have joined me for this live stream. And the way that we do that on this show is that we have people highlight, if they hit the LCS today, what they actually picked up at the LCS, and if they read one of those books, to let us know which one we might want to check out. So if you hit up your local comic shop, go ahead and throw up your list there in the comments. If it's a long list, just give me the high level. Give me the high level Cliff Notes version. And for all of those folks that do not have an LCS, I completely get it. I know a lot of people have LCSs that are too far away. I know some people actually do their stuff mail order, and they get their shipments once a month or something like that. And I can't remember who it was. I was on the Instagram earlier today, and someone received probably the largest box that I've ever seen from my comic shop. I don't know what size pull list it is or what the frequency is of the books that they get, but it was a massive box. Normally, my comic shop shipments are like really small. This was the largest box that I've ever seen. So I'm gonna go to the chat to see what folks are talking about, see if anybody actually is throwing up anything that they have been able to pick up at their local comic shop. Oh, here we go. MythLab says, wasn't an LCS pickup, but he did snag FF18 today. There you go. Congrats on that, brother. That is awesome. Mister, how you doing, brother? It's good to see you. You did indeed make it, my friend. Joker, you were never late. We literally just hit like the first 2 seconds of the intro, so you are not late. Welcome. Doug is throwing up his list right here. King in Black. There you go. Haven't read it yet. Lots of back it, brother. You and me both. I'm going to tell you, I've been reading Shogun and G.I. Joe. And I am enjoying both of them. I got to tell you, I'm reading a lot of back stuff right now. Oh, here we go. My man Chuck, Werewolf by Night. I just saw that today. I think it's issue 2 that's out right now. I think if memory serves, I was standing outside the LCS this earlier today, waiting for them to open up. And I saw what I think was Werewolf by Night issue number 2. So the other history of DC is amazing. Can't wait to read it. Marvel. What is that? Oh, I don't know about that one. I don't know about that. I need to look that one up. All right, so let me see. Department of Truth. I've been hearing a lot about that one. I think, is it on issue 2 or 3? I can't remember. I read issue 1, thought it was okay. But everybody has a different point of view and a different perspective. And I know a lot of folks are enjoying Department of Truth. One of my LCS guys today said something like it was a hard issue to get through. And I don't really know what he meant by that, because I was trying to be respectful of the many people that were waiting in line out in front of the LCS. So I actually didn't get a chance to dig into the details. Philly Born is talking about the other history. So there you go. Picked up a bunch of LCS variants. There you go, Adam Close. Well, support the local comic shops, brother. Eddie says that he did not get to the LCS today. But this is his first, brother. That deserves a shout out. Welcome to the live stream. I definitely appreciate that. Joker picked up the timeless variants. Woo, that's a stack right there. That is a stack. Scrolling through some of the comments, I saw someone had a question here. We will remind me towards the end of the live stream, and we will try to get to that question right there. We'll try to get to that question. We definitely, in this show, we have an agenda that we try to adhere to, and I want to definitely adhere to that, because anytime you have a guest, you want to be respectful of the guest's time. And so I want to stay on track because of that. But I promise you, if you stay here long enough, we will be able to address your question on the back end of the show. All right. All right, cool. So it doesn't look like a whole lot of people hit up the LCS today. I was able to make it by, as I alluded to. The line in the LCS was really long, and it was brutal. I picked up only 2 comics. It was a light week for me personally. Picked up Philadelphia issue number 10. I've been reading this since issue number 1. My man Rodney Barnes is working on that one. And then I picked up X-Men issue number 15. So I'm looking forward to reading that. I think the 10 of Swords event is coming to an end, I want to say. But yeah, those are 2 of the books that I actually picked up today. Definitely a light week for me. So scrolling through, I actually saw that. The Snake Eyes Dead Game, I saw that. And then I did not see White Widow. I did not see that, but congrats on both of those. I've been enjoying the White Widow stuff. When I'm able to read it and get them, I definitely enjoy that series. So scrolling through some of the comments here, Doug says, LCS has 35% off all brother. It's time to clean up. It's time to, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you, one of the places that I buy from, Comics for the Go Collect giveaway, had a sale. It was 10% off and free shipping. I've been buying books all day. I've been buying books all day. I want to tell you, anything that I can do to get a better book and save a couple of bucks to be able to offer it up, I'm on it. So I'm already into next month. Next month's giveaway. Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I'm into the month after. I've been buying that many books over the course of today. As soon as I saw that come up, I was like, I'm on it. I am on it. I was pushing my kids on the swing and buying books with the other hand. That's how I was doing it today. Oh man, let me see what else you guys. There we go. Doug's giving a shout out, letting everybody know where to pick up that good sale stuff right there. Arkham Unhinged set 20. And the Batman Europa set of 4. Joker's on it. So Joker's picking up Batman books. Imagine that. All right. So I want to go ahead and get into the next segment here. Shout out to all the LCSs out there. Shout out to all the people that are out there trying to support the LCS, and those people that don't have an LCS but thought about comics today. Shout out to you guys. So I want to segue into the next segment of things that we are actually going to talk about, and it's GarageCon. This is the second year that I've actually done GarageCon at my house, and it was by far one of the best experiences that I've had related to comics, right? I think that it's one thing to stare at people's faces and names on a screen. Like if they're YouTubers, you see them. If they have webcams, sometimes I invite them onto the channel. We talk. I see the names. It's different to be able to stand in the vicinity and have a face-to-face conversation with somebody. And that's basically what we did. On the 21st. We came together, a bunch of comic book soldiers in my driveway, and we had a good time. And what was really cool is that at one point I was able to step away from people, and I was able to just watch folks interact with one another. And it was one of those things where people weren't looking at me like entertain us. They were just talking to each other and having a wonderful time. And this is something in my mind that you could see play out at any con, anywhere, anytime. Just comic book folks having a good time socializing with one another. And it's unfortunate that we had to wear masks, but we wore the mask, we kept our distance, and we had a fantastic time just telling jokes, swapping stories, looking at comics, looking at original art. I mean, it was fun. And I cannot wait until we're able to do it again. My man Jerry, the bearded comic collector, basically suggested that maybe we do it in the warmer temperatures, because it was a little nippy. It was a little nippy. About 6:30, I was coming out of the side of my house, pulling a heater. I had to pull the heater from the back of the house, the propane tank. So we got that to the front of the house. We got it set up, at least giving people a little bit of heat in the early morning. I had one in the garage cranking, just trying to keep folks warm, keep myself warm. But we had a fantastic time. So my hope is that we will be able to do it again in 2021, possibly in the warmer months. I don't know. We'll have to see. But here's the thing. A lot of people were asking, could we shoot some footage? Could we live stream it? The problem with all of that is that I would not have been able to be in the moment. And I wanted to honestly just be in the moment and just enjoy the people that were there. And so the downside is that if you weren't able to fly in or drive in because we had people do both, then you missed it. And so what we tried to do was we tried to take a lot of photos, and we wanted to kind of share those photos with you guys so that you can see what it was like at GarageCon 2020. So I'm sitting here grinning as the video montage is playing because I'm reliving all of the great conversations that I had over the course of that time that we had together. There were several people that we didn't get photos of because they were either there early before the cameras came out or were in the garage, so they actually weren't seen. But the turnout, I think, was pretty solid. And again, considering we had people that flew in and people that drove several hours to actually join, I was as pleased as I could be. And again, I look forward to being able to do this again in the future and hopefully have even more people come out and just hang out and have a good time. So there you go. That is GarageCon 2020. And again, I want to thank every single person that came out and celebrated, if you will, some semblance of normal despite the masks and the distance and all that kind of stuff. So shout out to you guys. All right. So I want to go ahead and move into the next segment. And this next segment it's an interesting one. The move by DC is interesting for a couple of different reasons. And I want to talk about that. And we're actually going to have a guest here join us in a few moments. But I've been spending some time thinking about what it is that DC is about to do. And I want to break it down. So we heard, and we talked about this on the show a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, that DC was moving towards, and we heard this from Jim Lee, moving towards diversifying what it offers to the public. And they've been doing this, and they've been talking about it and signaling that they are interested in diversity of people, of characters, et cetera, et cetera. Recently, we heard that the co-chief editor is now the single editor of DC Comics. And we know that she has a favorite character, and her favorite character is Wonder Woman. And essentially what is happening right now is that DC has formed a really great relationship, if you will, with the CW. I guess that's like all of the same parent company or whatever, right? But the CW has been consistently putting out some pretty solid content using DC characters. And I actually want to try to throw this up on screen real quick for you guys. There are a lot of DC properties that are currently on the CW or have been on the CW. So right now you have things like Stargirl, you have Batwoman that's up there. You had in the past Arrow. You have now Swamp Thing, and we actually talked about that recently. They have The Flash, Black Lightning, Supergirl, Arrow, and then they're also coming out with the Painkiller spinoff out of Black Lightning. So they have, and I probably missed several, right? But the CW is carrying a lot of intellectual property for DC. But they are doing something that I think is different. And I don't think that it's shocking, because they've been kind of signaling that they're going to do some things. But it's an interesting move. And I say that it's interesting because if you think about each one of the characters that I just mentioned that have a TV show on the CW, all of these characters have been in comics for a while. Some of them going back decades, right? They've been in comics for a while. They have a fan base, maybe small, but they do have a fan base of people, and they have a long history in comics. What DC is about to do with the CW right now is that they are about to roll out a TV show for a character that has never technically appeared in a comic book before. This character won't even appear in comics until January of 2021. And so they're already like, we're going to do this show. It is a drama show featuring a DC character that actually is not in comic books right now. And again, they're doing something that is a diverse character. And so it kind of falls in line with what they've done, but it's an unusual move. It is an unusual move. And so to that point, what I wanted to do is I wanted to invite a guest here to help me to kind of make sense of some of this stuff. And it's a person that loves DC Comics. And it's also a person that has been on the show before. Joe, welcome, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well. It is good to see you. Thank you for joining me. Sure. What comic do you have in the background? Because we missed it last time. What comic do you have sitting in the background, sir? There we go. X-Men 2. Well done. Well done. There are worse books to have, my friend. That is a fantastic book. But Joe, thank you for agreeing to be on the show to help me make sense of what is actually happening right now with the CW and DC.
Okay.
I'm curious, like you heard some of my opening comments there. Is there anything from that you would correct, modify, or add to?
Not really. I think you kind of hit a home run on that. One of the things you spoke about, Jim Lee talking about diversity. And I think this goes hand in hand with what he had said that DC was going towards. The one thing that I think is kind of interesting here is that You already had a lot of diversity in DC.
Mm.
And you mentioned like Black Lightning. We have the new Wildcat is a Latina as well. You've got a few people in here already, but they seem to be making this move in the comics more towards it. And it seems that it's flowing now over into the CW verse, so to speak, with respect to that. So I think that you hit it right. I think this is what they're going for. But the fact that they're using a character that's not yet out in the comics is simply amazing. And one of the comments that I saw of some people that were, some DC fans who were commenting on it was, how can they have a new Wonder Girl get her TV show when she's not even in a comic? Suppose it ends up being a bust.
Yep. So essentially what we're talking about here is to Joe's point, there are diverse characters in the shows on the CW. There's no doubt about that. But what DC is basically doing is they're going to make a character by the name of Yara Flor. I think that's how you say it, Yara Flor. Right. She is basically going to be the title featured character of a new show on the CW called, I'm guessing, Wonder Girl, because that's what they're calling her, not Wonder Woman. They're calling her Wonder Girl. And to both of our points, this person has never appeared in a comic book. And that's what makes this a little bit unusual. But Joe, I cut you off a second ago. Go ahead and finish the last part of your thought there.
Well, the one thing that I thought is interesting, we talked about Future State the last time.
Yep. And
Yara Flor in Future State for those 2 months is going to basically take the mantle from Diana Prince and become the new Wonder Woman in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But as I understand it, and maybe people know better than I, but when I understand it, there's going to be at least one of the comics or a series of the comics that are going to be speaking about 3 Wonder Womans. In other words, the current Wonder Woman is still going to exist.
Right.
Okay. There's also going to be Nubia, the Black Wonder Woman, I guess. And then you're going to have a Wonder Woman from Brazil.
Yes.
There too. So there's going to be, so talk about diversity.
Yes.
You've got a woman, which kind of fits into the 3 women, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, and I don't know, maybe you know better than I don't know if she's African-American or whatever, but she's Black for sure,
Yeah.
And you have someone who's from Brazil. So she's Latina, not Hispanic, but Latina. So you're kind of like,
and somebody made from clay. You're literally covering all of your bases. Right. Now, here's the thing. When you were on the show before and we talked about the Future State, right? Because Yara is going to be appearing in January in Future State. Right. I remember doing some research around that. And I was so confused as to, so who is the new Wonder Woman? Because I read that she was Black. I read Nubia. And then I saw something else that said she was Brazilian. I was so confused as to what the truth is. And what we're hearing is that there's just going to be 3.
Right. I'm not exactly sure. And I didn't look into it that specifically to see how the storylines are going to go, but they're all going to have their own storylines and somehow kind of, I guess, come together. So the new CW show is basically Yara Flor as a young woman rather than as the Wonder Woman. So it's kind of her origin. How did she, get these powers? She was, born of a Brazilian god, I guess, or whatever. And somebody from Themyscira that ended up in Brazil and matched up with this guy. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but it's kind of interesting, the concept that they came up with in doing that.
The concept is very interesting. I'm actually trying to find the paragraph here that I spotted where it actually explained. So her mother, I guess, is an Amazonian warrior,
right,
and a Brazilian river god. Is that her dad?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so it's just I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but again, the point here is that these other characters actually have a long history in comics, and this character doesn't. Yes, it's Wonder Girl, and the Wonder Girl moniker has been around, I want to say, since like the 60s or something like that. But Yara Flora has never existed in comics, and they are building an entire show around her. My hope is that it's successful, right? But at the end of the day, we don't know whether this character is even going to resonate with people,
Well, let me tell you something, though. I am wondering I guess you could look at it a couple of different ways.
Hmm.
What I'm wondering is whether these people that have made up this Yara Lore character have co-opted an idea from Stan Lee.
Tell me more.
Okay.
Because now I'm intrigued.
Do you remember when Stan Lee came over to DC? I guess it was in the early 2000s, and he had that Just Imagine series where he reimagined the DC heroes. Well, the one that seemed to be the most lauded of all of those was his Wonder Woman, right? And his Wonder Woman was somebody called, I wrote it down so I don't forget, Maria Mendoza. All right. I'm reading this straight from the DC fandom thing. We met Maria Mendoza, a young idealist angered by the way her homeland of Peru had been stripped of its ancient treasures and its people tortured by the sinister Senor Gutierrez. When Maria discovers an ancient staff which transforms her into a paragon of power, the likes of which the world has never known, she becomes the only force powerful enough to save her culture from Senor Gutierrez. And in that instance, Steve Trevor was an archaeologist that helps her find the staff. So think about it. We already had a Latinx Wonder Woman, and it was Stan Lee's idea.
Imagine that. Imagine that. I remember, I think I did a video on those Just Imagine books, I want to say. And one of the ones that I did not find was the Wonder Woman. I actually did not find that one. So my research around that was very limited because I did not actually have that book. But it's interesting. It's interesting. Maybe they did co-op it. I don't know. I mean, the people that seem to be working on this book, I think are of maybe Brazilian descent. So
yeah, I think she's a Cuban descent.
Is she Cuban descent? Okay.
Yeah.
And so, that seems to be, I was watching a documentary just the other day, and I did not know this, like there were certain characters that are like Ms. Marvel in Marvel. And also there was one other character, I can't remember, that are basically based upon the writer and the editor that were working on those characters. And so, part of it is if you want diversity, you kind of hire that person that is diverse, and then they just basically create a character about themselves to some degree or another. So that could be what we're seeing here right now. Right. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of talk about to some degree or another, to the point that we've been making, that DC is making this play towards diversity. This isn't really a new concept, to the point that you made, but to my points as well, because it's important to mention here that Batwoman, the Batwoman show, which I've never actually seen, is actually the first openly gay superhero, right, on the CW. And then you also have Black Lightning, which is the first, title character to have a show on the CW that happens to be Black. So this is very much in line with some of the things that they've already been doing. And so it's just a continuation of some of that stuff.
Well, the White Canary, I guess she's bisexual, I suppose. But, she was there a little bit before Batwoman. But from a titular character, yeah, Batwoman, definitely. And one thing that's kind of interesting is the reaction that at least I've seen through some of the comments on some of the articles that are there. And the reactions are all over the place.
As you would imagine.
As you would imagine, right, with something like this. But I think it goes back a little bit to our first conversation, where I said in some ways DC has always been wedded to its legacy heroes, keeping them out front and so forth. This future state and Yara Flor in this TV show is a real departure from that. And so you're going to get those type of reactions. And I think one of the things that I've seen in terms of kind of going, even going back in time, is that there are basically three types of comic book fans when it comes to these type of things. One type is I call him the casual fan. He reads the stories, watches the TV shows, goes to the movies. If they're good, great. He doesn't look at it and say, gee, how does that play into Diana Prince? And how's this, type of person like that? He doesn't think about it that way. Then there's another person who is kind of more open to these type of changes and likes to see what they're like. Maybe they're progressive minded in some way, in that they look at it and say, hey, we should have a Latino and a Black Wonder Woman. Why not? That's great. That's the way society is. Everybody should have, like, you know, see what it would be like and so forth. And so they push it. They like it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have people that are more traditional, you know.
What's their reaction?
I'll tell you in a second. But they're more traditional. They say, you know, this is okay, but why do you have to call her Wonder Woman or Wonder Girl? We have a Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Why do you have to get rid of Wonder Woman? You know, how does it play into the whole Wonder Woman mystique? Now you have this movie that's making $1 billion, and maybe the next one won't make as much because it's going to be on HBO Max, but it's really, everybody's waiting for it, you know, and the third is probably going to make $1 billion. How's that going to play into this, you know? And those type of people, I think, and I think I fall into with a little bit of each one of the categories, I think. But when I was younger, I think I was more the traditionalist. Mm. And if you go back on some of the letters, like even to Stan Lee and then DC ones, many of the letters, when I was younger, reading the letter columns, would try to find mistakes. Mm. They would say, oh, you said this, but Lois Lane in issue number 33 did that. Yeah. And that was kind of the big deal. And so those are the type of people. And looking at someone my age versus your age, I was reading comics and those people when you weren't even born yet, you know? So I'm vested in it for a very long time, you know? I'll give you one other example. And I'll talk about my friend, the one that I said is kind of the real traditionalist. I'm a little bit more open-minded. He's not. He and I have seen, going way back, James Bond movies.
Okay.
We went to see Goldfinger. We loved it.
Okay.
Then they came out with a double feature, Dr. No from Russian with Love. We went to see that. Ever since that time, up until the very last one, because now we live far away from each other, we have seen every James Bond movie together.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay. So I talked to him. So I called him up. I said, hey, you know, John, the new one's going to be coming out. When it does, we should really try to see it together.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, Joe, they're making a woman 007? Forget about it. I'm vicious with that, you know? And then think about the last Fantastic Four movie. All right. Now, I didn't go to see that movie. Okay. One of the reasons was that I heard that they had changed the whole scenario.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't even know what it was. And they didn't get good reviews. And I said, you know, I'll pass. I'll watch it on TV or something like that. So in preparation for this, I read it. And I didn't even know that this was the case. But then I found out that Professor Storm was Black, African-American.
Yeah.
Johnny Storm was Black, and Sue Storm was adopted by the Storms. And I said, okay, why?
Yeah.
You know, now I like the idea of having different heroes and going through different approaches. But with Wonder Girl, you know, you already have a Wonder Girl.
Yeah.
And a lot of people on the comment areas were saying things like, let me see, I'll just read one to you. Let's see if I can find it real quick here. Yeah. I was hoping for a Wonder Girl TV series, but a spinoff of Titans Wonder Girl, Connor Leslie. But then they say, but this sounds good. And they're hoping that the Brazilian female, you know, plays a good part and so forth. But there's still kind of that angst saying, we got them. And someone said, well, maybe she can do, because we have multiverses now, maybe she can do a guest appearance.
Right.
So there's always kind of there's people saying, yeah, gung-ho, great. Other people saying, well, what's the story about? I don't even know what's happening here. You know, I'll just read it. And others are saying, let's do something to preserve the history and the tradition of the characters that's there.
The truth of the matter in my mind, man, if they make some really good shows, a lot of people will be very forgiving.
Yeah.
If they do all of this stuff and it's not very good, then it's a waste, you know. But if this show turns out to be really good, a lot of people, I think, will potentially start to get on board with it, you know. And there are some of the CW shows that are actually pretty good, you know, some of them not so much. So only time will tell whether it, you know, how it plays out. And I'll tell you, to some degree or another, I think I fall into those three categories. There's a little bit of me in each one of them where I'm like, that doesn't make sense, or that was stupid, but I was entertained for an hour, so I don't really mind it, you know. But it's just, you know, I cannot imagine being in the shoes of some of these editors and some of these creators trying to tell fresh, innovative stories, you know, when we as collectors can be very opinionated and not shy about sharing our thoughts. And I think part of it is sometimes we just need to give things a chance.
Right.
Let's take a wait and see approach. And if it's garbage, then you hammer it, you know,
But
and if
you're
it's
right.
good,
You see,
you're like, that was
it's
good.
a story.
You know?
It's
Say that again.
Story. So people react right away
Yes.
to, oh, she's Latina?
Yeah.
Well, but Wonder Woman is from Themyscira, you know, this Greek mythology. It's not Amazonian in the sense of the Amazon River.
Right.
It's Amazonian in the sense of, you know, the Greek mythology. And so people react to that right away, you know, and these other kind of changes without necessarily saying, well, interesting, they could tie it in. If the story might be really good, it'll give them like more opportunities to come up with different things that they may not be able to come up with different separately. So like you, I say, well, let's give it a chance. Let's see how that works out.
One of the things that I was curious about, Joe, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is the name Wonder Girl. I was struggling with that a little bit, you know, like, can we not call her a woman of some sort, right? So one of the things that was kind of on my mind is I had heard once upon a time that the royalties and rights associated with the Wonder Woman moniker, right, that intellectual property, I guess DC does not retain all of the value whenever they use that character. And so my thought was, are they calling her Wonder Girl so as to be able to retain all of the profits that come from the show? And so, you know, I'm curious, do you have thoughts on that? Did you get a chance to research that? And if so, share that with us.
I have thoughts. I actually, you know, tried to see whether I could find a copy of the agreement that Moulton had with DC, but I couldn't.
Okay.
But what I did find out is that you're right. He was actually ahead of his times. You know, he came out with Wonder Woman. And there's a whole history, and there's a book, which I read the book, about him and his wife and his girlfriend, I guess, whatever, and his approach to women and how he, you know, really propped them up and believed in them. And he had Wonder Woman for maybe 6 years or so before he died. He didn't produce a lot, but what he did do when he basically sold the rights to DC is he gets royalties. And he actually put something in the agreement where Wonder Woman has to be published, I think, at least 4 times a year. Yep. If not, all the rights revert back to his estate. Wow. So in thinking about that, my opinion is that, I mean, Wonder Girl came out way back, I think, in the 1960s, maybe. I forget exactly when it was. Yep. You know, the Wonder Girl that came out. I don't know what the agreement says. I would assume that Wonder Girl probably falls within the Wonder Woman scenario. Okay. So that's been out there for a while. So I don't know that that really plays a part, because I don't know how much money he's getting, but it's probably some sort of percentage. He's made his family, I think, wealthy because of it. Generational money. And if you think about $1 billion in a movie, even if he's getting like, 2%, I mean, that's a lot of money. So I don't know that that really would stop them. I think Wonder Girl is something that's there. And I think with the story of Future State, with her being the new Wonder Woman, it just made sense for her to be Wonder Girl here. It was just a logic there, I think. And that's my opinion. That helps. That helps. Because I was just curious about that. Like, why would they not call her just Wonder Woman? But, to your point, I mean, maybe it causes confusion in the marketplace because there's the Wonder Woman movies and you can't have this TV show and they'd be two separate at the same time. So Wonder Girl, Supergirl, I don't know. It's interesting. So again, I think time will tell how this stuff plays out. Fingers crossed that it goes incredibly well. I'm intrigued to read the comic now and to also see the show, because now I'm like, what is this about? They accomplished what they wanted. This hypes the comic, and the comic hypes the show when it comes out. And then all the YouTubers talk about it, and now everybody's talking about it, So, but hey, Joe, I want to thank you, brother, for coming on the show, man, for helping me to make sense of some of this stuff. I absolutely appreciate your perspective, and you brought several points that I had not thought about. So I always appreciate that. If you guys get a chance, make sure you check out Joe. His details for Instagram and YouTube are on the bottom of the screen, so be sure to check them out. Joe, thank you, brother.
All right. So I want to definitely thank Joe. There's a couple of comments here that I wanted to look at. Let me scroll up. Let me see if I can find some of the comments here. Quest Dog says the key is to have a good story to tell. If you're just showing a new looking character with an old name or costume, but don't have the right story to tell why it happened, then you're going to get heat. I could not agree more with that comment. Well done, brother. At the end of the day, man, the thing is, put out good content. If you put out good content, people will be able to get on board with it. If you don't, then that's where it's going to really be a problem. Let me see if there's another comment here. Bello is making a point here. Make a new character and make it good. Having to ride the coattails of an existing character is a disservice to all. I definitely get that. But what I will say to you, to some degree or another, the idea of riding the coattails of another character is not new, right? If you look at some of the books that are on the wall behind me, Spider-Man was introduced through the Fantastic Four. They literally appeared on the very first comic that he did, featuring Amazing Spider-Man issue #1, right? They were front and center. If you look at how Hulk was launched on the shoulders of the Fantastic Four, right? So this idea of leveraging other characters to introduce new characters is not a new concept. Same thing to some degree with the names, right? The names have moved around over time. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that, but at least they're consistent in some respects. So I definitely get that. And here's the thing, when you think about the mental space that the word Spider-Man, for example, takes up in the brain of people on Earth, the potentially, arguably, one of the best well-known characters out there. It's hard to walk away from that, right? And part of you wants to leverage that, but you're starting from zero when you can start from an 80-year history. You know what I'm saying? And that's the hard part. A lot of characters that are introduced honestly fail. And I think that companies at this point are always trying to look for ways to de-risk some of what they do. So I think that is part of it. So again, not that stuff is right. I'm not crazy. Oliver says, I'm not crazy about retcon characters. Just create new characters that stand on their own. Again, I appreciate the perspective that you guys are giving. I honestly do. Doug is saying, Quest nailed it. I want an original story, whether traditional or new takes on characters. Just basically give me something new is what he's saying. So again, I appreciate where you guys are definitely coming from. No doubt about it. Here we go. So Philly Born says, when are we going to say it's time to let Clark, Bruce, and Diana go? DC or Marvel can't continue to put these young, diverse characters in one book. They need to be front and center and carry on the brand. It's a great question. And here's the thing. If they were to completely retire Bruce Wayne, what would people think of that? If they completely got rid of Peter Parker, no more Peter Parker ever, how would people take that? I honestly don't know. I would have to sit and think about that. If there was no more Peter Parker, there was no more Charles Xavier, like they literally just moved on from those guys and never used them again. I don't know. Let me see. Scrolling through some of the comments, Jessica Cruz is a great example of that. She never felt contrived. Jessica's struggles were her anxiety, not her race. Make these diverse characters people, not stereotypes. Uncanny Mike, well said, brother. Well said. I definitely get that. Scrolling through some of the comments here. What is this? I would be mad. I would be mad and have buying power. Keep my original and add good ones, says DB. And that's kind of my thing. Like, why do we have to get rid of Peter Parker? Can I not have Peter Parker? Because that's man, So, the thing about it is that no matter what you do, it is going to be tough, whether you retire old characters or introduce new characters and try to leverage the legacy of the old characters, that's going to be a problem. If you take the name and the moniker and give it to another person, that's going to be a problem. If you introduce completely whole cloth new characters, that too is to some degree a problem, primarily because of the risk associated with doing so. And like, will people even buy the book? You know what I'm saying? So it's a challenge, and I don't envy the place that these creators are in. You know, one of the great things about some of the smaller publishers is that they can do that, and they do it all the time, but they also have less risk. They don't have a multi-billion-dollar franchise that sits out there that has, bat signals and Superman logos and all of this other merchandising that happens out there, right? They have to keep that stuff alive. And so I do not envy the position that these folks are in, not in any way, shape, or form. But again, I want to thank my man Joe for coming on the show. I absolutely appreciated his perspective as we dug into this Wonder Girl, Wonder Woman stuff that's actually happening. I have a feeling that this discussion around diversity and the proper way to do it and the evolution of comics, this is something that we're going to continue to talk about. And I think that that's okay for us to continue to talk about it, because to Joe's point, as he broke it down with those 3 different groups, none of those groups were like, I hate this because. It was more like, if you're going to do it, here's how you do it. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's an important part, is that a lot of it is how you do it, not necessarily if you do it. It's more like, do it this way, do it that way, so that it all kind of makes sense. So let me there's a couple more comments in here. Let me do this. So why do the old characters have to go? Yeah, I just said that just develop new characters that everyone wants to see. Well, that's the thing. Not everyone will want to see them. And that's actually a point that I discussed with Joe earlier today when we had our prep call. I think to some degree or another, we may have to get on board with this notion that not every character will resonate with everyone, right? They may come up with characters that you just don't want to read, and that has to be okay. You don't have to like every single character, right? And we just might have to be okay with that. That's not a character for me. That comic is for kids. I don't need to like those characters. That comic is for women. If that's who they're designing it for, then let them have that, right? So maybe they will start to move down this road of introducing these characters that speak to certain segments of the readership, and maybe not to all. Matt Woods has a comment here. I would be upset if they drop Peter Parker. I love the work that they're doing on Miles Morales, but he is a better complement to the story of Spider-Man than if he were the sole character. Doug says, I love diverse takes on iconic characters. There was a time when all heroes were white. Giving everyone an iconic character that looks like you is a powerful, particularly for children. And I will tell you that some of this actually plays into my next thing here. So Jeff P, my man, how you doing, brother? He's talking about some changes that they actually made with replacing Bruce Wayne back in the 90s. Diversity is much needed in comics, in his opinion, now more than ever, says Philly born. Bobby is saying, I'm cool with diversity. And that's the thing, is I don't think anyone is like, diversity is bad. I was watching something the other day, and the person that was being interviewed basically says, I find that comic book readers are the most accepting people out there, right? I don't think that we object to diversity. It's more like, how do you actually do it? How do you introduce? What are you taking away, if anything, in order to introduce this diversity? And again, all really good conversations that we'll probably have to pick up. But I want to actually segue into my next thing, because this, believe it or not, this actually does play into it. I was watching a show on Disney Plus by the recommendation of Connie. Connie sent me a message after a recent live stream, and she says, Reggie, if you have time, you have to check out the 616. And so I did. I did check out the 616, and here's a little bit of a blurb on this thing. Marvel 616 explores Marvel's rich legacy of pioneering characters, creators, and storytelling to reflect the world outside of your window. Each documentary, helmed by a unique filmmaker, showcases the intersection of storytelling, pop culture, fandom within the Marvel Universe. Episodes in this anthology series will cover topics including Marvel's world-spanning artists, trailblazing women at Marvel Comics, discovering the forgotten characters of Marvel, and so much more. And so this series, which came out, I want to say like just a couple of days ago, has to some degree or another been received with some mixed emotions. Like there is some controversy right now around Dan Slott and how Dan Slott was essentially portrayed in the 616 episode in which he appeared on the Marvel Way, which I honestly found that fascinating. I found it fascinating. And we may discuss that on a separate show. But one of the other episodes actually focused on women. And it talked about something that I wasn't aware of. They basically said at one point in time, the readership of comics was 50-50 boys and girls, men and women. I did not know that. I honestly didn't. I to some degree or another, I thought that comics always kind of catered to boys and men. And I should have known better, to be honest with you. When you think about the different genres that are out there, right? There was romance and there were Westerns, and there were all of these different types of genres that aren't necessarily something that a boy or a man would necessarily read. But through time and through circumstances, the playing field, the genres were narrowed down to something that was, I think, more attractive to boys and to men. And so for that reason, a lot of the characters that were introduced back in the day that were women were kind of forgotten. And so it was actually a pretty solid documentary and I watched several episodes, I'll be honest with you. And what I really enjoyed about it, as you guys have heard me talk about before, is the rich history, not just of the comics themselves, but what is happening around the comics. And we actually talked to Ross about that, the founder and the CEO of Boom Studios. We talked about that, all of the stuff that happens around the books. I find that fascinating. And that's why the 616 on Disney Plus, I thought was really incredibly done. And I want to show you guys this clip here. And on the other side, I will actually explain this clip. I may actually do it during, because I took the audio out, but I want to show this clip because it is hilarious. So literally what you are seeing right now is a Japanese version of Spider-Man. It is a Japanese Spider-Man TV show that ran for 40 episodes. That was in Japan. I did not know that there was a Japanese Spider-Man. I did not know that. And in the 616 documentary, they interviewed the guy that played Spider-Man, the stunt man that did the stunts, and people that were associated with like bringing Marvel and Spider-Man to Japan, the directors and all of that kind of stuff, the different actors that were in the show. Again, this to me is the Dan Slott stuff, controversy aside, this documentary is incredibly well done. I think I've watched 4 episodes of the 7, I want to say, and they're all very good. Some of them are a little slow, like the one about Spider-Man, a little slow, but it is entertaining. And it was reminiscent of like The Flash, because the Flash wears a ring and out of his ring comes his suit and he throws the suit on. It is very reminiscent as I was watching that. But what was cool about this episode that focused on Spider-Man is that they basically made a connection between like manga, if you will, and Spider-Man, and like the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger Voltron Transformer kind of stuff into Shogun. Like all of this stuff is actually connected, and I did not know that, and I found it fascinating. So if you are a fan of like history associated with comics, the 616 is definitely something you want to check out. So I want to go back to the chat real quick. And as we get ready to wrap up, I want to take a look at any comments and questions that you guys have. So if you have them, throw it up in all caps. I definitely want to respond. Adam Close says, I have a newfound appreciation for Camilla Khan, Miss Marvel character now after seeing the 616. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with this. And to some degree or another, it goes back to something we talked about with Joe. Instead of people hearing the headline and reacting to what they're hearing, if they take a moment and just say, I'm going to take a moment to wait and see and to learn a little bit more, they may realize that it's not such a bad idea, or that it doesn't necessarily come from a bad place. Because when you learn the history behind Camilla Khan, and I can't remember the other character, you're like, this actually makes so much sense why they did it. And it's one of those things that maybe they need to lead with the why. Maybe they need to lead with the why more often than just putting the headline out there and allowing us to fill in the gaps. Because when we fill in the gaps, it doesn't necessarily go well. But I agree. I agree with you, Adam. I have a newfound respect for Camilla Khan. And now I know why they are making her like front and center in for like, young adults, for like children and stuff like that. The cartoons and possibly the TV show that's coming out for Camilla. It makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense. So I'm scrolling down through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. I did not watch this one. So, Evan is talking about the cosplay episode. I did not watch that one. That's one of the ones that I haven't seen. I'm not the biggest on cosplay, but because of how well the other episodes were done, I'll probably watch this one as well. Shout out to Brute Force. Okay. We talked about Brute Force many, many months ago. Brute Force was literally the centerpiece of an episode. I was ahead of the curve. That's all I'm saying. Scrolling down through the comments, Oliver says 616 on Disney Plus is a good show. I lost a comment here. All right, scrolling down. See what else you guys are talking about. Man, I still remember live action Spider-Man on the old show, The Electric Company. And I want to say that those two may have been airing at the same time, but they were night and day different from one another. Night and day different. Scrolling through some of the comments here, Matt Woods is like, yeah, me too. I used to watch that. Scrolling through the comments here. There we go. Doug says, I'm excited. Brother, I'm going to tell you. Some of them are a little slow. Some of them are slow. You may have to hit the fast forward. You may have to take a break. But they're honestly good. So scrolling down, everybody's on the Electric Company. There she is, Connie. How you doing? Episode 7 has a glimpse of my LCS's other store in Manhattan. Connie, thank you for making the recommendation to me the other day to actually check this out. I absolutely appreciate it. I had a couple of hours of great entertainment as a result of that recommendation. So I definitely want to thank you for that. Myth Lab, happy birthday. Just turned 51 November 12th, he says. Happy birthday, my man. Jerry down here shouting out his age, 67 and counting here. His wife also had a birthday recently. So shout out to the wife. Everyone shouting out their age. I'm not gonna get on board with that. I'm just not gonna do it. Scrolling through, see what else you guys are talking about. Chuck over here talking about the entire run of the Spidey Super Stories. Well done. All right. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. Oh, you know what? As a reminder, this week's Go Collect giveaway book is still available. This is Micronauts 9.8 with white pages. So make sure that you are checking out all of the videos that are coming out from the channel over the course of this week for your opportunity to actually win this book. And we will be announcing the winner on Sunday's show, the Ready, Set, Go preview show at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. Shout out to our sponsor, Go Collect, for hooking us up with those awesome books right there. Scrolling back through, So as I wrap up here, I want to thank each and every one of you all for hanging out with me just a little bit. And I want to wish all of you in North America, well, no, in the US, a happy Thanksgiving. I do have videos coming out for the rest of the week. There is a video that will be dropping tomorrow. There is a video on Friday as well. And then we may also squeeze in a live stream as well at some point. But I want to thank you guys. If you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Reggie Collects, or if you want, you can send me an email to Reggie@reggiecollects.com. Take care.